If your God can be limited to a book, then he isn't worthy to be a God. Whatever books you have, read them, learn from them, look at what the people in those books do, and then do what the people in those books do. Do not let these books and texts ever replace divinity itself. This is a very quick video intended to help spiritual people and mystics who may be exiting from religion learn the correct way to use scriptures, books, and guides. I'm going to get straight into it. When you come out of religion, you are going to have to separate from the belief that books are God or divine. They are not. They are written, printed, they chop down a tree, get paper, put ink on it. It's a physical book. So even if that book gets cut in half or damaged, it doesn't mean that God himself has been damaged. Now, having said that, I'm not saying that you shouldn't treat these texts with respect. For whatever book I'm handling, for example, with the Quran, I'll wash my hands and make sure I handle these books with respect, okay? That's what you do because of honor and respect. But what I'm saying is the way in which you view these texts has to change when you then enter spirituality, and I'm going to explain why. All of these texts, the reason why they exist is they exist to help you on your journey of development. That is why books exist. They're like signs. It's like me walking to the end of my road and I want to get to a station, and there's a sign that says to get to the station, turn right, and then half a mile down the road, turn left. What I am going to do is I'm going to read that sign and I'm going to follow that sign. There may even be names and stories of people who read the sign before you and got to the destination. So I'm going to use that as motivation. There may also be, some warnings on the sign saying that if you do this, you may not reach the destination. I'm going to follow those warnings. What I am not going to do is stand in front of that sign and worship that sign and be like, oh my gosh, this sign is the best thing ever. This sign is God. This sign is divine. The only way in which the journey can speak to me is through this sign. The only way you guys get the point I'm making, okay? Look. If your God can be limited to a book, then he isn't worthy to be a God. If everything about your God can be written in a book, then he isn't worthy to be your God. I'm not going to say I believe he isn't worthy, because how can he be a God if everything about him can be written in a book? Now, by the definition of what most people deem as God, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. Come on. Let's be real. Let's use our common sense here. Not meaning to offend anyone, but genuinely. Let's take the Bible. In the Bible itself, it says that all of the stories about Yeshua couldn't be contained in it. And so if now when you encounter Yeshua, and Yeshua tells you something that isn't in that book, why then are you trying to use that book to verify what Yeshua has told you? The Bible and most of these spiritual texts that I have read personally, I've dipped into the Quran, read the Mahabharata, some other Hindu texts, which I'll talk about once I finish reading them. Really interesting. But common thing I find is inspiration. You find stories of people who are just like you and me, who gained an awareness or a direct relationship with God themselves, got on their grind, did what they had to do, started obeying, and then, had a great time doing it. For my Christians, in the same way there's a book of Daniel that talks about how Daniel had a relationship with Yahweh and then lived from that. There could be a book about you. Let's say your name is Dega Dega. There'll be a book called the Book of Dega Dega, and it will talk about how you were born. And then, one day you heard a voice and then you started obeying that voice, and then you did all these mighty things. Where a lot of people get trapped is they start reading these books and they think, oh my gosh, these people were awesome. I can't be like them, but these books are awesome and are proof that God does exist. Yeah, but no. Real talk, I said I want this video to be a quick video, so all I'm basically saying is this. Whatever books you have, read them, learn from them, look at what the people in those books do, and then do what the people in those books do. You don't necessarily have to do what someone who preaches from that book tells you to do. People who preach from that book may tell you to do stuff, and that stuff may be wrong because they're using logic, they're using interpretation. If you just take the book as is, read it, and use the Spirit's guidance to help you, and train, because I think these books can be used for training. These books can also be used to, learn and brush up on a few things, but should not be replaced with the divine thing itself. The divine were gracious enough to impart and download information into people, vessels, and those vessels and people then lived their lives and had people write it down and pass it on to us. I think that's a beautiful thing, a very kind and considerate thing. Because a lot of people, including myself, wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for these books and texts. But do not let these books and texts ever replace divinity itself. It's a mistake, bad mistake as well, especially because then If you see a book as being God, right? What happens when people say, oh, but this happened in this year when this got changed to this and this has been altered here and there? What happens? Those with direct experience, if you use the books and use them to actually learn how to directly experience things, it's much better, which is why, and this will happen, you'll meet people from these books and they'll sometimes tell you, oh, that is wrong. This is actually what happened, or that isn't quite right. This is actually what happened. But as I said, this is going to be a short video. I don't want to reveal too much to you guys, but as you go down on this journey, you're going to start to experience things. And the reason why I make these videos is so that when you do, you don't think, oh, I'm going crazy. You may question yourself, but at least that can be some sort of anchor of safety for you guys where you understand, okay, it's normal for me to encounter someone from this book that I've read and they tell me something that's a little bit different to what is in the book. It's all right for me not to see a book as God because that never made sense to me, but to still use that book to learn how to access God directly. If the book says be still and know that I am God, you don't just highlight that and think, wow, this is amazing. You practice being still and then come into the knowledge of God around you, that presence, that anyway. Use it as a guide, use it to help you develop, use it to help you grow. And even when you then get onto the spiritual path, you don't necessarily have to disregard them and say everything in these books are wrong. No, there is so much wisdom across all of them. You don't necessarily have to, but what I'm saying is they aren't 100% necessary for you to develop and get to where you are, or need to be, sorry, not where you are. What is 100% important for your development is you practicing and you building and fostering that relationship with the divine yourself, working on your abilities, mastering your craft as a mystic. With that, guys, peace.